Hello, everybody. Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our third live. So I'll just give it a minute. It's great to have you all here. I've really enjoyed it so far. Hi. Just let me know where you guys are all from. It would be great to know where you are in the world, where you are in the UK. If you're outside of the UK, let me know. Post in the comments. Norfolk. Oh, beautiful. How is the weather? Kent's gorgeous. All right. Derby. How do you say that? Derby. Yorkshire. Amazing. UK Cheshire Uncle, not far from me. So amazing. Switzerland, how beautiful. Zurich, Bucharest, Romania, how gorgeous. Great to have you. So tonight is going to be all about the Solar Plexus Chakra, and the Solar Plexus Chakra is a really interesting, fascinating chakra, and it's the seat of our power, really. And they say, it's our ego, and it certainly is. We can't do anything without our ego. There's also a lot wrapped up in our ego as well. For quite some time, let's say the spiritual community, if you like, have talked negatively about the ego, and I get why, but it's essential. But our will and motivation and our desire, it's what we do with it that counts. So I'll just give it another second. So for all those who have just joined, just let me know where you're from. We've got people from the UK, we've got people from outside of the UK, Romania, Switzerland. So just post where you're from. It would be great to know. And also, I don't know if I've promoted this enough actually, but we have some free resources to give away. South Wales. Oh, gorgeous. Were you affected by the floods? I'm not sure if that was South Wales. So let me know where you're from. And also, so you know, we have some free resources to give you. It's something that I use our master coaches have access to it. And it is a chakra assessment. And it's also an introduction to chakras guide and workbook. So if you head over to the link tree, in my link tree on my profile, you can get the freebies there. So Dorset, you were in Liverpool, so you missed them. Oh my goodness. So we've got Scotland, amazing. Dorset, beautiful. Okay. So who here it'd be great to get some feedback. Who kind of knows about the chakras? Are you beginners? Are you really into you know all about the chakras? It would be good to get some feedback on where you feel. Are you a complete beginner with the chakras, or are you kind of at an advanced level with the chakras? So either just beginner or advanced or something, whatever resonates with you. Because we do have, I always have things, but I'm just working on something at the moment to help you become kind of chakra life coaches and use the tarot as well. So Sej, I'm at the beginning, but very interested. Yes, they are very interesting. It was really what kick-started a lot of my spiritual work. Joe Keaton, oh gosh, I'm rubbish saying names, beginner. Jodie kind of in the middle, energy healer but always have more to learn. Yeah, we always do. Janie, beginner, developing. Nick, not advanced but beginner, amazing. Yeah, and there's so much out there for you to learn. Shari says middle. There's so many different ways that you can work with the chakras. So many different ways. So I bring it into coaching because that's really, I love like the talking therapy side as well as the healing. So I use the chakras in my coaching work, but as a psychological basis. So we work with the spiritual and the psychological development of the chakras. So the roots 0 to 7, sacral 7 to 14, and now we're working in the realms of 14 to 21. So we're going to work on such an important chakra. It's where we project our identity out into the world. And it's really key that we work on the first 2 chakras first, because they're the ones that have accumulated all of the molding, the beliefs, the ancestral, all the inherited conditioning that have been piled onto us and kind of, we've been molded into this jelly mold, and, we've fitted into the family, we've been dented by, criticism or beliefs or, cultural background that tells us we should be who we should be to fit in here. And sometimes that mold isn't really what we feel is the true self. So, but that being said, all of those kind of conditioning and those beliefs and those emotions and those feelings have been molded, and we bring them up. So we're going to go through it one more time from the beginning. The root is really the foundation of the house that you're building, the foundation of your life that you're constructing. And those roots have to be really solid. It's your core identity. It's not the identity that we project from here. It's our core identity of our spiritual and human self. How do we feel in our body? How do we feel grounded in our true self when we're alone and we're not performing in any way, shape or form, and we're alone with ourselves, with our thoughts? How do we feel? And it's a question you can actually, let's ask that question. How do you feel when there's no one around, there's silence, it's just you, you're alone with your thoughts? How do you feel about your identity? Are you fully owning and embracing your place in the world with your true power, your identity, your true place in the world? Or is there something holding you back from that? So tell me how you feel when you think about that. So it's not fully, but definitely getting closer. Yeah, good. So things, emotions and feelings and thoughts that can be around our identity. One of the big ones is defected. And then we've got the more kind of surface level ones, but not surface level, is abandonment. Nick says that's a good question. Don't know how I feel. Yeah, it's a really important question to ask yourself. It's so core to you growing and feeling, when we say that's something missing. It's time to go to the root. It's time to go to our core identity and ask ourselves, how do we feel? Because your soul, however you want to think about it, as incarnated, but that incarnation has come with a whole set of, I don't know what you want to call it, like karma or experiences, and they have shaped your brain and your nervous system, and we internalize it, and we form a belief about ourselves. So one of the deepest ones is being defected, broken, that kind of thing. So when you tune in to your identity, when you're completely alone with your thoughts, if you were to be cast away on an island or went and did an ashram, like, how do you think you would feel in that identity of yours? Shari says, not sure who I am, feel lost, my identity. Yes, that's very common. I would probably dare to say like maybe 80% of society feel that way. Kelly says, feeling more at peace than I used to be. Amazing. That's because you're working on yourself and you're doing the work. So that is one of the core things in the root. It's 0 to 7. So it's in utero, it's that taking on the absorption, the DNA of all flooding into your system, unbeknown to you. You have no say in it. It's happening to you. And then you're born. So 0 to 7, you're creating this identity. And then 7 to 14, they say the sacral chakra starts to open. And, you're taking the core identity, whether that be strong, secure, or, like I say, kind of defected and broken, whatever it is, we're taking that up into our sacral chakra, where we then, we've stopped clinging to mum, let's say, just the natural caregiver. It's not always the case, I know that, but we've stopped clinging and not seeing ourselves as so much separate. When we're that young, we are part of the person who's caring for us. We don't really fully understand that we are separate. But when we move up to the sacral, we realise we're very separate. And actually, I can go off over here and I can go to this group here and do I feel comfortable? Do they accept me? How do I need to be in this group to get accepted? How do I need to be in the family to be accepted? Is it safe for me to say no? Do I have boundaries? Is my creativity nurtured? What about my sexuality? What am I being told about that? All of the things between 7 and 14, such delicate times where, changes in our body occur. What we're being told about the changes in our body. Do we have people around us we can trust? How am I valuing myself? There's a lot of value that we place, that sacred holy grail that we have in our sacral chakra. Who does the cup serve? We serve the divine, but it's so much can happen where we start to devalue ourselves in this sacral chakra, 7 to 14. Then we take all of those energies, all of those who we are becoming, up into the solar plexus chakra, which is our power center. And then we project that out into the world. So this is 14 to 21. We're starting to become young adults. We're really starting to potentially rebel. We're trying to find our place. We are motivated by external factors. We have drive in this area. And this is the fire, they say about the fire in your belly. So we've gone from earth being the root, and I'm telling you this for a reason. Earth element being the root. That's why they say think about the roots of a tree. Water element being the sacral. And then we go to fire element being the solar plexus. So all of that, so the sun basically. So it's the sun, fire, solar, the moon, sacral, water, and the earth, Gaia, and the earth element in the root. All of these three physically dense chakras, energetic centers, are really what make us feel like we are in a human body. And it's where we store most of all of the experiences that have happened to us as children that create this automatic robotic human that we believe is the true version of ourselves, when actually it's not, because we are so much greater than that. And I just kind of was curious, thinking, this is the fire, so this is the sun, and that's right. And then, the moon is the sacral, and how does that affect a woman's menstrual cycle? Because it does. And then you've got the earth. I was like, how do those all work together? And what I found was that the sun, the moon, and the earth align during a new moon or a full moon, and the combined gravitational forces create something called spring tides, which are unusually higher tides and lower tides. So the moon affects the water on the earth, basically. And I know a lot of women's cycles can go with a moon cycle as well, 30 days, etc. So it's this kind of dance between the moon, the earth, and the sun that creates this gravitational force and what happens really on our earth plane. So if we can balance these and have them in more of a flow than feeling stuck and gritty and resistant or blocked, or however we live our lives, then we can start to really kind of open up the energetic flow towards our more spiritual, if you like, chakras, who then hopefully, once we do that, we can align with the true self through the heart. Then the voice comes online, and the wisdom with the third eye and the crown chakra. Is that making sense to you right now? The solar plexus is also where we do a lot of our thinking. So they say we have our little brain is in our gut. So it's not just the brain that processes. Actually, the heart really does process, they say, more than the brain potentially, which is crazy. But we have this, enteric nervous system that goes from, our most primal kind of brain stem nerve, the vagus nerve, and vagus nerve touches all the organs, but it really does affect our fight or flight. So if we get a lot of gut issues, it's normally because our system is in fight or flight and we haven't been able to regulate it. Excuse me. Does anybody here, to ask you some questions, does anybody here suffer with IBS? Or even potentially migraines, or stress-related gut issues that they can recognise? Let me know if that's a yes. Isabel says yes. Yeah, okay. So what is happening when that is happening, and we go and try and we fix our gut instead of fixing our brain and nervous system? So says yes, not so much, and she's done work on herself. Yes, so doing the work really does have an effect. So when we think about gut issues, so often we will reach for a medication or something, a sticky plaster, and the doctor will give you something that helps your digestive enzymes, that helps your stomach enzymes, that gives you, the cooling effect on your gases and your acid. When actually the breathing can help, the kind of the stress levels can help. So what's happening is this constriction via the vagus nerve, because we are not breathing enough in a way that soothes and regulates. And what else can happen is we have a connection in our a social connection. Kind of our brains have evolved as this human species, and we now have this third system, which is the social connection system. And it's how we connect with other people. And we actually do that through the eyes. So we have these little ocular kind of like nerves that that move and open or constrict. So we have this way of humans now that our kind of nervous system has evolved even more because we are social animals, and we do this connection through our eyes with each other, through our contact. And one of the biggest things, I don't know if I talked about this last week, but one of the biggest things that I've noticed through COVID was the lack of eye contact people made. Now, maybe this is just a self-perception. It could possibly be that that I shut down a bit and was a little bit afraid to make eye contact with people, or just had a sense that things had changed and everything was weird and you had to walk on different sides of the street and it was all a bit awkward, like you felt awkward saying hello and being friendly. I don't know, it's just weird. But we kind of lost that eye contact that's so important to humans for the social contact, and that can shut down a part of the nervous system that wants to connect and needs to connect with other people, leading to, you know, the disassociation and isolation and stress. So the more that we can strengthen our vagus nerve, which is done by the breath, by slowing the breath. And if you notice when you're stressed, you breathe from shallow breath from the top. So the breath is used to slow everything down. So think about your IBS or your, stress-related gut issues as more, the gut is just responding to what the brain and the nervous system are doing. So it's not to jump in and fix that, it's to fix the brain and the nervous system and the vagus nerve and the connection first. So when we worked the last 2 weeks, we brought in guides, and I want you to try and really use these guides. Now, you check in with them as often as you possibly can and use them for your spiritual work. When I did my kind of ritual, like to get myself in the zone for tonight, I imagine my spiritual father, my spiritual mother. Now, the guides can change. My spiritual mother changes quite a lot actually, and it was very different tonight, but the giving and the receiving energies are still the same, and so is the spiritual father. But just notice what is changing in your guides, because it could be a reflection of what's changing out there or what's changing within you. So has anybody been doing the kind of the 4 guides practice? Because it is such a gorgeous thing to get used to doing. So just let me know if you've been using it and how have you felt? What have you felt any benefits of it? Okay, maybe nobody's used it yet. It's a beautiful healing tool. So says yes, a lot more grounded self-awareness and peace. Yeah, it's a beautiful practice to have. So try and get into the habit of doing it and really strengthen the connection with your guides. It's such an amazing practice, and it can help you feel protected as well. So the solar plexus, in the way that you think about it, we did the inner child. The inner child can be kind of the younger version of you, that sacral chakra version, that kind of 0 to 7 or the 7 to 14. But now we get up into the realm of 14 to 21. This is where we're kind of going through adolescence. This is where, as children, we think we're adults, we can't wait to be, we start to say to our parents, yeah, you can't tell me what to do, and we start to think that we're so much more mature than we actually are. So this is a bit of a gateway from pushing past, that really kind of like vulnerable inner child that can so easily be hurt, to then this kind of next level of motivation and fire, where we kind of think we know a lot more than what we actually know. But it's good to have that fire in our belly. But this is really important to ask yourselves, how much of your life is driven by the sacral inner child, or a kind of adolescent inner child, and not kind of the full adult self? Because to step into the full adult self, we kind of need to have done a lot of work on ourselves. And it's not mean to say that because you've been through trauma, you need to do a lot of work on yourself. The work comes in by just having a sense of self-awareness. Well, who am I then? Maybe I was born into this most caring, loving family, but that's not who I am. Who am I? We all come here with a path. We don't come here to complete somebody else's path. We don't come here to complete mum and dad's path. We come here to complete our adventure and our path. So even if you've had the most loving upbringing, it's still a choice to find the true self, to ask the questions, who am I? And that's where the ego can really come into play, because within the ego, we can present to the world a myriad of different personalities or personas, let's say, and they're all kind of like archetypal. But it's how we want to be perceived in the world. So we go for a job interview, we go to college, we do whatever we're doing in our life. We step in and we perform. And that's called a persona, and we all need them. They're our friend, they're not our enemy. But sometimes these personas, where are they coming from? They're coming from our belief system. They're coming from the experiences we've had in the root, the sacral, and then we project them out into the world. So I know full well that at some point in my childhood, I was very vulnerable, very naive, very doe-eyed. And then life was kind of hitting me hard, and I was thinking, what the fuck? I was thinking, right, I really need to protect myself here. And I developed this persona that was like, you can't hurt me. I'm the rebel. I don't care. Nothing hurts me. Don't get in my way. I'm, I'll kick your ass type of thing if you even dare try to hurt me. So we create these personas, but unfortunately we don't see them as play actors. We see them as the true personality when they're really not. They are part of our personality, but they're not the true self. And, through the work of Dr. Helen Sidra Stone, which I teach on the Master Coaching course, we have hundreds of these different personalities, and through their work, they say that we have a dominant personality, a dominant kind of, I think it's called a subpersonality, so a dominant archetypal persona that runs our life, that makes our decisions for us, that says we can be in this relationship or not, that says we can eat this food or not, that says we can choose that style of hair or dress or not. And this is all based on our belief systems. So, for me, I had a really strong controller. A really strong protector. So in the realm of relationships, when I was doing this work, I had this protector energy that was kind of living its life through me and for me, but it was protecting me from being vulnerable, from opening up, from, having a loving relationship, because it was protecting me from being hurt. So it would sabotage, and it would tell me to run away, and it would get rid of this relationship, and it would run my show. But that was not the true self at all. That was a projected version of the self in order to keep me safe. So, what do you think you have going on in your projected persona in your life based on your experiences? Can anybody resonate? We've got things like, so think of archetypes, the warrior, even like the wounded child, the fairy child, the martyr, the villain, the victim, the sage. We've got so many different kind of archetypes: the controller, the pusher, the procrastinator, the joker. So many different archetypes that can play out based on our experiences. So have a think about what personality, dominant personality, that is not the true self, but is part of the whole self that's projected out. I hope this is making sense. Victim and controller. Okay, brilliant. Well done, Soph. So Jem says projecting the warrior. Thank you. Warrior, protector, controller. Yeah. So maybe grab a pen and a piece of paper and think about which one it is, because they say we have a dominant one. So is it the warrior? Is it the protector? Is it the controller? You don't have to maybe do it now, but just have a think about it, because what we have, Kelly says the protector. So when Soph said the victim and the controller, they're actual opposites. And what happens is we have opposites. So if it's the controller playing out, you actually have an equal opposite. Now, it might not be a victim. It would be something more like the free spirit, something like that. So, the go with the flow type of, I can't think of the right word, the easygoing one. And they also have amazing qualities. So whatever our dominant personality persona is, it's not negative, it's not bad, it's not something that we want to get rid of. It's something that we've needed, and it's really stepped in to protect us in our life. So the reason I had the protector was because I was, destroyed time and time again through being hurt, and those hurt feelings, I internalized, and it really, really hurt me. So my protector stepped in to keep me safe, and it was doing an amazing job, So it wasn't to say it was there to harm me or hurt me or anything like that. I, probably invited it in, through a belief system that I'm never, we make these vows, I'm never going to let that happen again. I'm never going to do that again. And in comes, an energy, in a way we've invited it in, and it's like, protect me, stop me from that happening again. But on the equal side of that is there's a voice that's not being heard, that has qualities, but that's also not to say that should also rule your decisions either. So what the work of Helen Sidra Stone does helps you recognise that actually the whole self, the whole of you, has so many different kind of personas to it. The mother, the lover, the, I don't know, wife or sister, brother, you know, whatever. There's all these personalities and personas and hats we wear when we step in and do those roles and have those interactions with people. We're not always just the same person all the time. So, but it's to recognize and realize that in amongst that, the true self lies somewhere in the middle. And before we make decisions and we step into automatic behavior mode, then it's a chance and a window to go, oh, who am I presenting now? Is that the protector saying no to a new opportunity where I might be vulnerable? Or is it the true self? And check in. And something that's really quite lovely to do is to have what you imagine as a bit of a wise counsel in your life. So not just always thinking, you know, you're the one making the decisions and we don't know where it's coming from. As we say, it could be a persona, but to actually take the time to do some introspection and have some kind of wise counsel. Well, listen to what that protector has to say, but then also listen to its equal opposite, the one that's fun-loving, you know, the one that wants to go and explore and have adventures and step into new territory. Also listen to what they have to say and then make your own mind up from, you know, a centered place where you feel like, yes, this is actually my decision. But the work is interesting. So Dee says, I've not done the work yet. It'd be interesting to see what I really am when I do it in the course. So Dee's training with us and you will get to do it. And these personalities change, so they're not stagnant all the time. You know, at some point the protector will have kind of stepped back and then something else will kind of like be there more dominant, and I might be listening to that for a bit. So it's just to know that the whole self is so complex. It's made up of these different kind of personas and archetypes and energies and you know, it's like the stage performance sometimes that happens through our sacral, our solar plexus, our ego. It's the will, it's the drive, it's the fire that tells us if something's, you know, worth fighting for. Or do we lack the confidence to fight for what we really want? You know, this is really about the inner critic as well. So I think that's making sense to most of you. So one of the best ways to really start to work with the solar plexus is, first of all, identify your identity. So go back into the root and think about you know, your kind of cellular identity, like what you've been born with, that core identity. Then ask yourself, what experiences have I had that are now being projected out into my personality, and how do I feel about that? Is it helpful? Is it who I really want to be? Is this version of myself the true self? You know, so many people who I've coached have been around imposter syndrome. So, you know, what is imposter syndrome? It's the solar plexus, like thinking, shit, I'm projecting this person, and when I go home at night, that's not who I am. You know, I'm not this like person who maybe steps up on stages and delivers speeches. It's just a performance. But we get so wrapped up in, I feel like a fake, I feel like a phony, I feel like I'm performing. It's not the true self. If people see the true self, they're not going to want me to be here. So all of the inner critic, remember the brain, that's a little brain, we'll come to that. That's a big brain actually. The brain and the nervous system, all our thoughts, emotions and beliefs get flooded in the endocrine system. All our emotions then get flooded into the system, and our vagus nerve can, you know, contract or expand, and it can tighten everything up. So we go into fight and flight or freeze mode, and then we start to shut down and we can hold back, and our confidence is knocked, and the way that we're talking to ourselves, we just go into kind of inner critic. So notice the way that you're talking to yourself and write it down. Is it helpful? What persona is speaking through you? What personality is speaking through you? Because if we have a controller, think about this. If we have a controller, it's controlling. And it's controlling in all that it does. It wants you to be a certain way. It wants you to perform a certain way. It wants you to look a certain way. And if you're not doing a good job, it will certainly let you know. And that's where the damage to the inner, that's where the inner critic does its most damaging work, because our thoughts create neural circuits in the brain that become habitual, and that then becomes solidifies who we believe ourselves to be. So if you do something wrong and the controller has a voice and it's the inner critic, then that's who we identify with. I always fuck things up, I always get things wrong, I'm no good. And then we project that out onto others, and we can start controlling them and judging them and criticizing them. And it's just a vicious cycle of what's going on in us gets projected out into the world. Gosh, that was a lot of information. Is this resonating with you? D's giving a thumbs up. Sophie's saying massively yes. Okay, because what is happening in your solar plexus is blocking potentially this gateway to the spiritual realm. So if you can imagine not working on your stuff, and you have a controller, a protector, a rebel, whatever it is, and we haven't worked on that, or let's say we haven't brought awareness to that, and we're not actively seeking to do the work on that, then the rest of how we feel and connect and speak and think are just going to be filled with these unhealed aspects of ourselves, which are just not true. The perspective is so limited when we're just seeing life from the lens of our past experiences, based on an immature, potentially, depends on what happened, immature perspective of the world anyway, because we was, young, and we don't know what the wider world looks like, and our perceptions are very limited. It's like the racehorse with the blinkers on. We don't really want to go through life like that. So Gemma says she can relate on so many levels. Okay, that's good. Now, I was going to ask you a question and I've forgotten what it was. So, I don't know what it was. I've totally forgotten, sorry. Yeah, I've lost it, sorry. Oh, I think I was going to ask you, do you have any questions? Or have I already asked you that? I can't remember. But do you have any questions? Because it can be a bit... It's where we start to come into the psychological aspect of how we form our belief system. That's fundamental to everything. So I'm not going to do a meditation tonight. I did think about it. And I just want you to keep practicing the four guides, the 4 pillars: spiritual father, spiritual mother, giving and receiving. And just feel in an energetic kind of column of light, feel that giving and receiving energy flowing through. Gemma says, I'm listening and taking everything in and opening my mind. Well done. That's brilliant. That's all I want you to do. So think about the 4 pillars. think about upgrade that kind of adolescent child. Like, is it still active in you? Do you know what I mean? Like, it can, it can be. There's no shame in that whatsoever. We all do it, You notice yourself doing it around certain people where you're still trapped in this ego state with them. You don't feel like you've fully matured from that version of yourself that's a 15-year-old and your mother or an authority figure or whoever, and you see this playing out in your relationship. So just spot it, now, just spot the relationships and the type of relationships and how you feel in them. Who do you become in those relationships, the triggering ones? Because we do get trapped in these ego states with people, and that's good because it gives us the insight that there's still something here that needs to be resolved in me to be able to level up and have a more mature kind of, a stable one-on-one, not, here, ego state relationship, parent-child relationship. So much can be learned from tuning in to your solar plexus ego energy center and noticing the words, the inner critic, the confidence, the desire or lack of. What do we seek out in the world to get this need met in us? How do we feel when we're on our own, in our own company, the core of our identity? Are we comfortable with that, or are we quick to then present this persona to the world to get our needs met? And that persona can be a rebel, it can be whatever it wants to be to feel alive, to feel activated, to feel something. So I'm going to move on now. We've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to move on. Any questions, just ask them here. I'm happy to answer them for you, but I'm going to move on and just see what some messages are using the tarot cards. Okay, so we're going to look at the tarot, but the question is, what am I attracting? Okay, that's a good one. What am I attracting? Okay. Okay, so what am I attracting? Okay, so balance, so temperance. So it's an interesting one. So again, that's so nice. We've got kind of all the elements there. The fire, the earth, the water. So what we're attracting is experiences that help us bring in balance. And that really is what the solar plexus, invites you to do, really. Yes, we need that fire in our belly because it gives us a sense of power. But power can be used in so many different ways, as we know. Corruption and power, or kindness and power to change negative situations into fair ones. So, we all have power. We all have fire in our bellies, you know what I mean? But it's how we use it. So this is saying, what am I attracting? So we're attracting experiences that allow us to potentially find the balance within them. So quite often, those experiences are challenging as fuck. That they have to be challenging as fuck for us to be bothered to do the work on ourselves. Otherwise, we would just coast through life and sit in front of the telly and eat popcorn and think it was fucking amazing. But, when you want to do the work and we go through transitions of change, that is never, ever comfortable. So in your solar plexus, what the cards are saying you are attracting are experiences that invite you to bring in a level of balance. And that happens all of the time. All of the time. I can be quite quick to temper, so that can give me opportunities to bring in balance. So me too work with the energy of the solar plexus and all the other, lower chakras all of the time. So I'm going to conclude tonight and, wish you a good night. So I have poorly daughter at home today. So I'm going to just check on her and make sure she's okay and make sure she's fast asleep. And thank you again for joining tonight. It is lovely to have you here and to do and share this with you. And next week we have the heart chakra, which is beautiful, and there'll be so much information for that as well. But I'm glad you've enjoyed it, and don't forget, if you do want the freebies to do some work on yourself and learn a little bit more, then go to the link tree or comment chakra on any of the posts, or go to the link tree and just get those free guides and they'll be sent to your inbox. So thank you everybody. Have a lovely evening. Take care. Lots of love.